Welcome back. This is Tim Thiessen Live, broadcasting live from the palatial studios in the Tower District in Fresno, California. My next guest is Tim Rosales. He's with the Wayne Johnson Agency in Sacramento. They do a lot of candidate work, ballot proposition work, public relations work, and so let's welcome Tim. Thank you for coming on board here. Tim, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we're going to launch into some issues of the day.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for having me very much, Tim. My name's Tim Rosales. I work for the Wayne Johnson Agency in Sacramento. We're a political consulting firm. Do a lot of initiatives, corporate public relations, issue advocacy. If somebody has a problem, pretty much we solve it. And that's kind of how I describe my job. I've been working in politics at various levels for about, since about 1994. Worked on a gubernatorial race back in 97, 98. Was a deputy campaign manager for, at the time, the most expensive House race in the country in 2000. And then served in various capacities in the legislature as chief of staff for a number of assembly members, and have run numerous initiatives and other campaigns and that kind of thing.
Okay, great. A big topic that's on this show lately, Tim, has been the redistricting and how these maps are going to be drawn and everything else. And kind of give us a little bit of a feel what your take is, because we're pretty well starting now with a blank sheet of paper, and they're going to start drawing maps and what the dynamics are going to have on California politics.
This redistricting that comes up and is going on right now is going to have a dramatic impact on California politics, and the way that you vote and who you vote for at every level, from city council to Congress. What happens is every 10 years, after a census is taken, by law, the state at every level, from the congressional districts to state assembly, state senate, county boards of supervisors, city councils, are all required to redraw their districts to accurately reflect the population, and so that they are proportionate. And so back in 2008, Californians passed Proposition 11. Proposition 11 basically changed the way that we do redistricting in California at the state assembly and state senate level, and then also another initiative was passed in 2010 that changed the way and applied that to congressional districts. And the way it was done before is that in Sacramento, some of the elected officials, politicians, would get together, take a look at the maps, and figure out where they wanted their districts to be. And as long as they could keep them proportional based on population and respected something called the Voting Rights Act to prevent disenfranchisement of certain groups of individuals, they could draw districts however they wanted to. And so you see, if you look at a map of California right now and look at congressional districts, assembly, senate districts, you see one district that may start let's say in Fresno, and ends up way down in Tehachapi, and maybe is only a few miles wide at some points. You've also have a district, some congressional districts along the coast that only go in maybe 5, 6, 7 miles inland, and but stretch hundreds of miles up and down up the coast. It's really so you kind of get the term, and you've heard the term gerrymandered. So,
well, I tell you, that's this is real clear in your mind. As just as disclaimer, folks, is Tim and Wayne Johnson were my media consultants in my general election in the 16th Senate District, and they were my general consultants in the primary in 2010. And a good example is the district that I was running in is the 16th is cut every which way, especially inside the boundaries of the city of Fresno. I mean, you really had to look at the map to know exactly whether you're in the district or out, and things are just absolutely so convoluted and stretching down to Kern County, and it made absolutely no sense. But with this new commission, if I understand right now, that should straighten up just a bit.
That's the idea. Is with Proposition 11 passing, what that did is create a redistricting commission that is selected from ordinary Californians. It's independent, and it has equal number of Republicans and Democrats, and then also those representing other parties. And they're going to start fresh. There are no private backroom conversations, no backroom deals. They cannot consider where any elected official lives, any legislator lives when they draw the map, and all of their hearings about how they're going to draw maps for California are going to be open and transparent, and hopefully should lead to a fair drawing of districts. And there are also criteria now that they have to use when drawing these maps, which include respect to the Voting Rights Act, number one, which was federal legislation back in the 1960s passed to prevent disenfranchisement, mostly that was occurring in the South, where they would certain areas, counties would give literacy tests, and the intent was to prevent African American voters from voting, or any other type of test that they would have in order to vote. So respect to voting rights, the Voting Rights Act, number one. Then also the other criteria that they have to consider is keeping counties and cities together. A lot of times you have cities and counties that may be represented by a number of different elected officials, and that can get, like you said, pretty convoluted, very confusing for voters, and is problematic. And the other thing is keeping together communities of interest that they have to consider. And a community of interest would be ethnic populations, could be groups that are defined by some geographic boundary, where maybe you might be in the same county technically, but a mountain range separates you, and you're probably more like people on this side of the mountain range than really you are on the other side of the mountain range, even if they're in a different county. So those are the criteria they have to consider, and hopefully it's going to lead to a fair drawing of maps for California, and that, at the end of the day, California voters are going to be better represented. But it will lead to, I think, a lot of right now, I think there's a lot of consternation, hand-wringing going on up in Sacramento and back in Washington, D.C., because you've got legislators that used to be very involved in the process. Now they have no involvement in the process, and they're worried about being drawn out of districts.
Well, absolutely, and a good example is that in our past election in November, there was Proposition 27, I believe, and that was crafted by legislators in Sacramento that did not want this commission to draw their maps. They wanted to draw their own deal, and what that really has amounted to is it's no secret, the Democrats control more seats in the Senate and the Assembly, and so we had these clearly Democratic seats, like the one I ran in, where Senator Rubio had a 20-point registration advantage. The same thing up here in Fresno in the Shoemaker and Henry T. Perea race, and Assemblyman Perea's, had a 21% advantage going into that, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that balances out, because there's not going to, I had to caution a lot of my Republican friends. I said, listen, they're all excited. They say, well, it's going to be more fair. And I said, yeah, but you folks in that safe district, it's going to be more fair for you also. And so we are really going to have some interesting days ahead coming up in 2012 here.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be, all the legislators are looking at the timeline. The census data comes out in April. That's when the commission is going to start drawing maps, start building maps. Anybody can submit maps. Groups are already trying to put that together, but they have to submit them in an open and transparent way. And then they have to come out with what is the final map in August. And so I think up until then, there's going to be a lot of political jockeying going on, and people trying to predict where a district may or may not be. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have some districts that are very Democratic. Downtown Los Angeles is not going to turn Republican, and it's not going to be a Republican district, or the city of San Francisco. And there are going to be certain areas of California that are going to be very Republican, because that's what they are. But there will be, I think, an increase of in closing of the gap in certain areas where the voter registration kind of becomes more competitive.
Oh, absolutely, especially here in the valley, is we have, you know, the way these, if you look at these boundary lines, and if any of you are interested, you can go to the State Senate website, California State Senate, or the Assembly, and just look at how those maps are drawn. It's just absolutely unbelievable. They're going each way, and in anticipation of this too, especially from my position as a host of this show, is the amount of speculation going on right now. Everybody just doesn't know what to do, and one of the dynamics here before we wind up this segment, one of the dynamics is also, as even like in the state Senate districts, Matt Rexroad, our friend, had written a really good piece in the Flash Report about that. We have Senator Rubio, who was successful in the race I ran, and Gene Fuller, the 16th and the 18th, respectively. Both live in Bakersfield. To the north, we have Anthony Cannell and Tom Berryhill. Both live in the Modesto area. And from Modesto to Bakersfield, which is a long distance, there is no sitting senator that's a resident. And it's going to be would you care to speculate on how this could turn out, or what the dynamics, if they overlap? Will you see two sitting senators running against each other for a seat, or what's going to happen there?
You certainly could see, in a lot of these areas, you have, and because the way these districts were drawn by legislators back in 2000, you can certainly see districts where you have got legislator A, who lives maybe 5 miles from legislator B. They represent, under the 2000 redistricting, two different districts, but suddenly they could find themselves in the same district having to run against each other. I think it presents for a lot of good political theater, number one, but also I think that you are going to give opportunities to people, and to people who haven't been represented by somebody who lives close or local or whatnot, where they didn't have those opportunities before. I think you may see some of those open up a little bit now, or when those maps come out.
This is going to be great, and I want to encourage everyone out there, if you're not registered to vote, please register to vote. I would prefer myself if you would vote register Republican, but that really has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But you are going to want to participate in 2012. This is extremely important, and this has been a very, very enlightening segment here. Tim, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
And you will be a regular on this show. We're looking forward to having you back again. So we're going to be right back after this message from our sponsor.